November is celebrated as Quality Month in many countries, and uh, the reason that we celebrate Quality Month in Kalpataru is because we are a diversified business group, and it is today quality has become an existential issue. It is not an option. It is not a cost center. I would rather call it a profit center. And we as humans generally have the need to remember, to celebrate, to commemorate. And we do this for our birthdays, our anniversaries, our festivals. At work, we have set aside this entire month just to make sure that quality is not just a buzzword during on a particular day or a particular month, but is ingrained within the fabric of the organization. And hence, we have a month long of celebrations here. But let me tell you why this quality is today becoming so much important and is, gaining more and more importance, more as a survival tool, as a tool which makes you competitive, as a tool which makes you a market leader. I will give you a very recent example, one which happened with me. Uh, I've been in the process of moving home for the last 10 or 15 days. And because we are in a COVID kind of situation, there was a need to buy some furniture. And, I did not want to visit any stores. So I obviously went to one of the biggest furniture marketplaces on the web, and there was a plethora of stuff that was available. And I ordered a whole lot of stuff. In fact, I went overboard. Each one of these, like any other marketplace like Amazon or Flipkart, had a date and delivery time. To my surprise, once these started getting delivered, among the 6 or 7 products that I had ordered, about 3 of them, one was a wardrobe which had missing parts, so it couldn't be assembled. The other came in broken and it didn't look, it was not the right piece in the sense that the finish and fit was not good. And the third was they sent the wrong item itself. Every time I called this call center, and by the way, they had excellent systems, they had excellent processes in place because all calls were recorded. The IT guys knew that I had called and so day and so time, but I would get one standard reply. Thank you for calling, sir. We will look into your concern and get back to you within 24 to 48 hours. Standard reply. And when I called the next day, because nobody would call me back, once again, I would get the same reply. Not knowing when the 24 to 48 hours would eventually end, I was really frustrated. And what I did was, in this era of social media, it's very easy. Went to LinkedIn, got the name of all the founders and the investors of the company, and wrote a very stinker mail to about 10 of them. The mail was written at around 10:30 in the night. My first call in the morning from the company was at around 8:30 in the morning. I was assigned a particular person, and I was told that all my issues will be addressed within the next 24 to 48 hours. And I was once again shocked, another 24 to 48 hours. And this time I said, I'm done with you guys. I'm going to throw this stuff out. But to my surprise, within 24 hours of me writing that mail, all my 3 issues were resolved. The stuff got picked up, the money got refunded, and I was a happy man. Why am I narrating this to you? The question that I asked myself is, does quality begin at the top, or is quality everybody's business? I leave this question with you, and during the month, while we go through a lot of activities, celebrations, a lot of speakers, would invite you to think about this question. How can I make my organization better by doing the right thing and first time right? With this, I will move on to introducing our keynote speaker for the day. He's a distinguished alumni of IIT Mumbai, has been in the field of quality for over 50 years. Not just quality, but as a management consultant, a keynote speaker, a trainer, a author, and he loves telling stories. That's what draws me towards him time and again. He's been a recipient of numerous national and international awards and an author of many publications. He is Mr. Suresh Lulla. He has been mentored by Dr. J.M. Juran, the father of quality, who, along with Mahatma Gandhi and Sri Ramakrishna Bajaj, form the trinity of his role models. He often jokes that the one thing he has in common with them is a bald head. In 1987, Mr. Lulla founded Quimpro Consultants, India's first focused quality management consulting firm based on the Juran trilogy of quality planning, quality control, and quality improvement. Since inception, Quimpro has served reputed Indian business houses, MNCs, SMEs, hospitals. Collectively, these clients have saved in excess of rupees 25,000 crore. I repeat, rupees 25,000 crore as a byproduct of quality improvements. And hence, during my introduction, I mentioned quality is no longer an option. It is no longer a cost center, but it is rather a profit center. In 2000, Mr. Lulla founded Quimpro Foundations to recognize statesmen, Quimpro Platinum Standard, and leaders, Quimpro Gold Standard, for individual excellence in business education, healthcare. The other objective of the Quimpro Foundation is to improve the quality of education and healthcare in India through formal and non-formal teaching. In 2007, Mr. Lulla founded Best Prax Club Private Limited as an exclusive Indian member of the Global Benchmarking Network, established by Mr. Robert Camp. And that's where I met Mr. Lulla. I was a recipient of one of the best pracs, and his work really impressed me a lot. And so we have the legend himself here. So without taking any more time from his time and the over 200 participants that are there on this call, I would invite Mr. Lulla to please share his thoughts with us. So we are not able to hear you.
You are on mute. Kindly unmute.
Yeah. Thank you, Elseed, for this warm introduction. You are quite a storyteller yourself, and I must compliment you. You gave a very good example. It goes to a fundamental. Who defines quality? In this case, it was you, Elseed, the customer. Please remember, quality is not standards. It's the customer perception and customer expectation. Customer expectation is the moving target and therefore a troublemaker. Let's get back on track. Today is probably the first day of Quality Month globally. And I must say that the Kalpataru family present at this seminar are very fortunate that we've started day one pre-lunch. We have an opportunity to build on the subject as we go along. a comment made by Elsie that quality can be a profit center.
Conference is being recorded.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can hear you. I think they just began the recording.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, I lost my thought. Right. Okay, let's get back on track. And what I want to talk about is 1987. In 1987, two important things happened. One in America, the Malcolm Baldrige criteria. Two, in Europe, the ISO 9001 standard for quality management. One of the core values of the Baldrige was continuous improvement. One of the clauses in ISO 9000 was preventive action, which is nothing but quality improvement. It's not a case of conforming to a standard. It's challenging the standard to become competitive. In 1987, by sheer coincidence, I established Kimpro, and our focus was quality improvement. Kimpro, as the name implies, is quality improvement. So I started marketing the concept, and wherever I went, the minute I'd say quality improvement, they'd say, oh, you mean quality control. And it took me a lot of effort to explain to them that quality improvement is challenging the standard, and quality control is maintaining the standard. So here I had an interview with the chairman of Tata Steel, Mr. Modi. And Mr. Modi's company, Tata Steel, was the darling of the share market. It could do nothing wrong. So as a young person, I asked a few quality-related questions and asked him, what is your rejection rate? And he smiled and said, 3%. I was aghast. 3%? So what are your costs, wasteful costs? I said, none. Even my rejects have a market. The pent-up demand for them. I have no wasteful costs. So I remembered what Dr. Duran had taught me. Got into cost of poor quality. I didn't use the terms with him. But I asked him, what are your warranty costs? What are your reject costs? This thing, that thing, that thing. And he did an off-the-cuff calculation. And we arrived at a figure of 10% of total cost is cost of poor quality. What is your to sales? About 12, 13%. Now, obviously, his mind started running. I said, Duran helped revolutionize Japan through quality improvement. And they could sell their offerings faster, better, cheaper. Faster, better, cheaper than anyone else on earth. He said, but we are India. Can you give me an example in India? I had just started. So I said, I'll arrange for an appointment with my director, who is the president of Caterpillar. And Caterpillar head office in America has mandated that all Caterpillar units employ the Duran on quality improvement methodology. So this director, Ramesh Daga, had a head start in India on Duran. He agreed to come to meet Mr. Rusi Modi. And amongst the first things he said is, quality is a culture. You can't have isolated examples of quality. It's got to be in the DNA of the company. So how do you use Duran on quality improvement? He said, identify a pilot project that impacts the maximum number of employees. Is there a problem with the sound?
Sir, I think somebody has unmuted their microphone by mistake.
Oh, okay.
Please continue.
So, where were we? We were at, you have to identify a project that impacts the maximum number of people. They have to see with their eyes the gains from quality improvement. Mr. Modi asked him, what did you do? He said, we are a plant in Tiruvellur, 100 kilometers away from Madras. And the first project we took on was canteen. The canteen of the workers. Everyone uses the canteen. Outside the canteen was a whole lot of garbage. This garbage was so much, it had a stench, that if you went anywhere close to it, you needed a handkerchief to cover your nose. So what did we do? We identified it as a pilot project. And who worked on it? Senior management. I underlined, senior management worked on a project. How did they analyze the symptom of the problem? They separated the garbage into avoidable and unavoidable. Unavoidable was packaging, beads, etc. And the avoidable was cooked food being thrown. Because the volume of the garbage was so much, in 1987, they had to employ an extra truck every day, a dump truck. That cost them 12,000 rupees per day. 12,000 rupees per day multiplied by 360 days in a year is a big, big number. And in 87, it was alarming. So the team did a diagnosis. They went from the symptom to the cause. To go from the symptom to the cause, you have to do an autopsy. See with your own eyes. Don't sit in a cabin and make assumptions on what is happening. Try and understand the flow. So we saw serpentine lines waiting for food with their thalis. The lunch break was staggered and was half an hour. So everyone filled their plate with as much food as possible because they wouldn't have time to again stand into a long line and get food. So there was wastage. What emerged more importantly is a comment or two made by some people. We are in South India and you're serving us North Indian food. We don't like it. That was it. So all they had to do, the remedial action, yet very innovative, and engage people. So they engaged the housewives of the workers who took turns to supervise the menu and the cooking. The wastage dropped. 12,000 per day was being saved. Did the company take it into their bottom line? No. They wanted to win the trust of the employees because they wanted to create a culture for quality. They plowed that money back into worker welfare, which meant they renovated the whole canteen. They cleaned it up. Then they went one step further. They engaged the children of the employees in art and used 12 beautiful pictures in the next year's calendar. The remaining pictures adorned the walls of the canteen. This is not rocket science. Mr. Modi was visibly moved. Mr. Modi, essentially an HR person, he was moved by this example. So he said, Suresh, can you come and speak to my top management about this? What is this cost of poor quality? It's not just in the value creation process. It's in the support processes. It's in the supplier processes. And the processes that not just benefit customers, but also society, internal customers, so on. Environment. Who is your number one customer? Mother Earth. Who's your second? The society or community where you are based. Third, your employees. And finally, your external customer. You cannot deliver customer satisfaction without employee satisfaction. It's a prerequisite. So now I went at the invitation of Mr. Modi to Dimna, near Jamshedpur. And sitting in the audience was the who's who of Tata Steel at that time. Dr. J.J. Irani, Mr. K.C. Mehra, Ishad Hussain, you name it, Mr. Muthuraman. They were all there. 12 of them. My knees were shaking. I didn't know how to address such a senior audience. Fortunately, I'd assembled my thoughts. And my thoughts were on cost of poor quality. I'm going to capture the essence of what I spoke to their top management. The first thing is get them to think outside of their company with nature. Nature is the best teacher. Nature has its systems perfectly. And if you misbehave, it shows you what climate change can be. The iceberg is nature's most spectacular creation. There's one employee of Tata's, Vivek Dambar, avid photographer, and he's shown me pictures of icebergs in the Arctic and the Antarctic. They are mind-boggling. But what we see is only the tip of the iceberg. Most of it is below the surface. 20% of the iceberg is visible. 80% is below the surface. This 80% has the potential to even sink the Titanic. This is true. The Titanic sank because of an iceberg. Cost of poor quality is also an iceberg. And you better learn to understand it. Up to 25% of your total costs of cost of quality are hidden. I would say 1/3. In a batch mode manufacturing, it's 1/3. In a continuous process, it's about 20%. In a service process, it's close to 40%. Now, construction fits somewhere in between. These hidden costs can be in the guise of excessive overtime, excess inventory, overdue receivables, billing errors. Would you believe it? 70 to 80% of the cost of poor quality does not come from the value creation process you have, but from the support and supplier processes. The root causes of maintenance, recruitment. Do we recruit the wrong person for the right job or the right person for the wrong job? Supplier quality. So what is cost of poor quality? Cost of poor quality is cost of chronic waste. Chronic. You don't even see it. You take it as a way of life. You see that garbage as a way of life. So I come to something very fundamental, the Durand trilogy. On the x-axis, we have time. On the y-axis, performance. What we notice is that 20% is a standard. And when there's a sporadic spike, we treat the symptom of the problem. But to challenge that standard to a new level of performance requires that we go step by step using quality improvement. And all that saving comes again. The chronic waste locked in your standards is cost of poor quality. When we reach a new level of performance, we feed back that information to quality planning, which is before time zero. What is quality planning? It goes through a process starting with who is my customer, existing and potential. What are their needs? Designing features that would satisfy those needs. Benchmarking the features to be best in class. And setting goals for the features. It doesn't end there. You now need to know, how will I create those features? What are the activities? What is the process? Benchmark the activities and process. Set process goals. Now, process goal would be zero defect. That's impossible. The finance director will question it and say, the cure should not cost more than the disease. Let's optimize. And we'll agree to some fraction of failures. Even Six Sigma permits 3 to 4 failures per million opportunities. That we call process capability. Process capability is to quality planning what budgeting is to financial planning. With an ill-defined budget, would you be sure of profit? With an incapable process, can you be sure of customer satisfaction? What are the categories of cost of poor quality? You have to incur some costs to save on others. So let's look at costs that we have to incur. Prevention, quality education, process design, defect cause removal, process changes, quality audits, preventive maintenance. I underline preventive, not breakdown. Preventive maintenance. There will be others also, but this gives you a sense of what prevention is. Working in a quality improvement team is also a prevention cost. You would expect a 1,000% ROI from every individual working in a team. Return on individual. Return on individual has to be 1,000%. Then there are appraisal costs, what we normally refer to as the quality department, where you have tests, testing, measurements. Measurement is a big troublemaker. Precision and accuracy is needed. Calibration is needed. Unless you have precision and accuracy, you will not get bullseye readings. Just because they're precise does not mean they're accurate. Assessments, problem analysis, inspection, maintenance. Now, while these costs need to be incurred, but they needn't be as intense and time-consuming. These departments exist largely because we make mistakes. We guarantee you we will make mistakes. So we need to have all this inspection. The iceberg is in the failure costs. Internal failure. Reinspection, retesting, scrap. Even when you're laying tiles in a building, there will be some scrap. Rework, repairs. I have to give you some after-sale service. I have to take back defect removal, capacity lost, and external failures. Simple question. Why do we have warranty? Why are warranty costs budgeted for? Because we guarantee you failures in the field. Alcide gave you a very good example. Even a furniture supplier has failures in the field. Return products. Sometimes litigation. Damage claims. Poor availability. Malfunction. Replacement. Accidents happening with your product. Complaint, administration, and warranty. Now pay attention to this graphic. 0 to 5% is what we normally incur as prevention costs, normally. 25% of our costs are failure costs. Sorry, appraisal costs. And 70% are failure costs. So what is the proposition? How would you like to double your profit without capital investment? I can halve my cost of poor quality. From 100, bring it down to 50. To accomplish that, failure costs have to come down from 50% to 20%. Appraisal costs have to come down from 25% to 10%. But you must invest more in prevention costs. Quality assurance comes from prevention, not inspection and quality control. Assurance comes from prevention. And this is where the role of understanding customers and the design people comes in. You build quality into the design. Reduce COPQ by 50%, double your profit with no capital investment. Punjab Tractors took it on. They had a market share of just 3%. And Mr. Chandra Mohan had actually designed that tractor to compete with the foreign ones. He was heartbroken that his product wasn't selling. Just 3% share. The leader had 25% share, 25% share, market share. So he took on Duran on quality improvement by reading the handbook of quality. And when I started, he came right to my office and sat with me for a discussion on Duran quality improvement. So my office wasn't even ready. He and I were sitting on crates with carpenters on it. And told me all his frustrations and perspiring and quite disturbed. I asked him, have you met your customers? He froze. He had not met his customers to understand their needs. It took a survey of 10 potential customers. He and I went. What did we hear? Sir, you have a very good tractor for our agriculture. But we also use it for a barat, a wedding procession. And it can't withstand the weight of more than 2 people on the bumper and the mudguards. The foreign ones take 6 people. Do you know where the remedial action came? Designing the bumpers and the mudguards. Where did his market share shoot to? 21% in 3 years. 21%. And the leader's share, the previous leader's share, came down to 15. Remarkable leadership, meeting customers. Dr. J.J. Irani led from the front. Once he realized that I can double my profit, he said, why can't we be the lowest cost steel producer in the world? So he set a vision in 1989, articulated. The vision was to become the lowest cost steel producer by the year 2000. By 1999, for 2 product lines, they had begun. By 2001, for several more. What did they do with that money? They bought out 6 steel plants internationally, knowing the potential of COPQ in each of them. And they transformed it into successful operations. I'll skip this one. I think I've given. I'll continue with Tata's. So what was the first project they took on? They again went into garbage. Not the canteen garbage of Caterpillar, but garbage not collected from the quarters. They just accepted it. They had procured 6 new dump trucks from Telco across the road. These 6 trucks had enough capacity to take the daily garbage out. What did the diagnosis show? The diagnosis showed that they were down for repair. But we are in warranty. Yes, sir. We don't have spare parts, sir. So what do? We go to the open market in Calcutta and buy spare parts, which are the rejects of Telco finding their way into the open market. And we pay a premium products. When we come and use them, they don't perform. The dump truck is again down. So where was the remedial action? In the purchase practices, the maintenance practices at telco. Now, uninvited guest came on the back of garbage not collected. Illness. People started falling ill, leading to absenteeism. Now, at Jamshedpur, at that time, they had 65,000 employees. Can't eat an elephant-sized problem in one bite. So we took on the smallest bite, which was at the tubes division, headed by Firdaus Wandrewan. At the tubes division, they had factored in planned absenteeism because every employee is allowed to do it. But the unplanned absenteeism was of the order of 1%. No big statistic, just 1%. What did they have to do? Use a badli to come and work in place of the original worker. The badli lacked the skills. And so what happened to the tube lengths? Variability, which meant one more operation of trimming, scrap. What were the costs per month in 1989 of a badli and scrap and loss of productivity? 15 lakhs per month, 15 lakh per month. Just recalibrate your thinking. 15 lakhs was a huge number at those days. So what did we do? We had defined the problem. Now, to diagnose a problem, you must see it with your eyes. You must follow the process. So here's an example where we knocked on the door of an absent employee, a Sardarji. He opened the door at 3 in the afternoon in a ganji and lungi. He filled the whole door with his stature. He looked the picture of health. So the question was, Sardar, how are you feeling? What is the problem? No, I'm all right. So why are you absent? Sir, beta bimar, my child is not well. What has happened? वो खास कुछ नहीं, सर्दी जुकाम, सर्दी जुकाम, and you don't come to work? So he said, साहब ऐसे होता है, I go to Tata Hospital and I wait in my line. The paperwork to register me as a patient, my son as a patient, takes about 2 hours. Then I wait in a line for the doctor to arrive at noon. The doctor is available for 1 hour. He sees me and he prescribes a medication. I go to the pharmacist, just the next department. Again, I have to wait in a line to get the medication. By which time you have marked me absent for the day. So where were the remedial actions? In the hospital, the registration process was brought down from 2 hours to 20 minutes. In those days, we didn't have laptops and things like that. So even that was a breakthrough. And how much, the benefit of that remedial action was for the whole campus of 65,000 employees. How much do you think Tata Steel saved in 1989 on correcting the right practice and process? 8 crore. 8 crore per annum. Is that a big number? I leave you to think about it. I've already told you the caterpillar story. While concluding, I'd like to let you know that chronic problems should not get legitimized in the budget. When estimating cost of poor quality, work with non-controversial numbers. You end up debating numbers so much that you'll miss out. It doesn't matter if you're 10% off. The numbers are so large. See the problem with your own eyes? And if there's a problem that continues, we call it our culture. COPQ is there in every process. A low failure rate can disguise a very high COPQ. COPQ is an opportunity. Use a structured methodology. Elephant-sized problems must be broken to a digestible bite. And finally, be a leader, not a cheerleader. Over to you, Sit. Can't hear you.
Yeah, sorry, all participants were muted because there was some background disturbance. So I was one of them as well. Thank you very much, sir, for this excellent, discussion and sharing of your experience. And I think some of the things which really struck me were Mother Earth being your number one customer, society and community number two, employees number three, and no customer satisfaction without 100% employee satisfaction. Really very enlightening. So now that we have a few minutes, I would like to ask you one question, which is also the question of so many other people in our industry, and I would like to articulate that on their behalf before we open it up to everyone else. There is a common understanding that things, quality initiatives such as Six Sigma, 7QC tools, etc., etc., are more applicable in the manufacturing sector, wherein the examples you quoted, let's say in Tata Steel or Tata Motors, or a more structured environment. Whereas for construction companies or for companies, we have online JMC Contracting as well, who's part of the Kalpataru family. We have KPTL as well into power transmission. We have PSIPL as well. Uh, a lot of the people that we deal with are from the unorganized sector, where attrition is very high, where labor turnaround is, and on average, probably every 90 days to 120 days. How would these be applicable to a sector like us? Would you please throw some light on that?
I may not be able to directly comment on your labor, but construction. Construction business also has support processes, supplier processes, which are the troublemaker. You're probably investing enough attention on the value creation process, but are missing out on the supplier and support service process. Example, when you recruit, you can have a defect joining for the right place. You can have a right person, perfect person, being placed in the wrong place. What happens? Things don't work out, they leave. So you have attrition. And before a person becomes productive, you go through an induction and training and all, you invest a lot. That could be an example. 2, suppliers. If you look at the problems you're having in your value creation process, several of them would be from your supplier processes. Are you the A category customer of your suppliers? Let's start with that. Are you buying out capacity? The question I'll raise. If time permits, I'll just give you another example.
Sure.
In 1997, I was invited on behalf of the Duran Institute to Maruti for a supplier conference. The A category suppliers were there. And there was a matter of accomplishment just to get that invitation. A category vendors, there were 200 of them. And we were sitting in the Taj Palace, in the largest room that they had, with 2 horseshoe seating. Inner horseshoe had 100, the outer horseshoe had 100. I'm just trying to give you a sense of it. And Mr. Bhargava stood up and complimented all the vendors for their achievements, their support, how it has benefited the company. And I wish you prosperity as you go along, as we grow, and things like that. Then he said, from next year, from now on and next year, I want a 3% drop in price. People froze. Did he mean he's giving us a 3% up or 3% down? And he's talking of us being prosperous. It's all on their faces, but intimidated to challenge Mr. Bhargava. He said, look, I have a purchase department. I have trained everyone in the purchase department on quality improvement. And I'm going to assign a person to each of you. The objective of that person, the KRA for each one in the purchase department, is to reduce your COPQ by 10%. I want 3% of that. You keep 7%. So one has to go beyond the four walls of our organization if you want to assure quality to your customer. That's the reaction I have.
Thank you, sir. I think it was very appropriately answered. Thank you very much. I have another question which comes to my mind, and this is going to be a last one from me, after which I open up to the audience. Uh, Usually, whenever we talk about cost of poor quality and people want to do a program or a project or a pilot, as you mentioned, the first initial reaction is that it's like near misses. I want to hide my near misses, but we all know hiding near misses could lead to a fatality. And likewise, hiding uh, the inefficiencies in the system, whether it's your own department or the organization, is also a problem. So, do you have any suggestions on how do we move on from, a hiding loss culture to a highlighting loss culture?
One is create a culture where people are unafraid to say they have a problem. Cut out the blame. Don't shoot the messenger. That's one. It's a very important part in the culture. The second would be in construction, it gets more magnified because of the interdependency of the activities. So I may try to hide it, but it's going to get caught. There's no escape. You have a PERT network, a CPM network, right? For projects,
Yeah.
you're going to get caught. And according to Dr. Duran, the first quality tool was CPM. Did you know that?
No.
The first quality tool was CPM, and there's so much to learn from it if you practice it. The critical path is where you have to start your focus. And try to make that faster, better, cheaper. Faster, better, cheaper. Critical path. And you'll be amazed at how many loose ends can be tied up. So I don't know if I've answered your question, but I've sort of waltzed around it. I don't know about these employees that you're talking of, or labor, the turnover.
Right, sir. I think the key word the year that you mentioned is that create a culture where there is no fear, and give them the what's in it for me factor. So I think that's really what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you must get very proficient on CPM or PERT, whichever you use.
Right. Yeah, so we do use MS Project and Primavera as planning tools, and we have the planning department also is here on this call. So there are a lot of advanced tools available today, which are, you know, the advanced versions of PERT, CPM, and which can have thousands of activities in it. So yes, that's being done. Right.
It's all in the planning. It's all in
Yes,
the planning.
yes, yes.
It was planned that way. And
Right.
if we planned wrong, we're going to get wrong.
Sure, sure, sure. All right. With this, sir, I open it up to the audience. If anyone has a question, we are going to be unmuting you now. So please, whoever wants to speak, only they should unmute themselves so that there is no background noise or disturbance. And please go ahead with the questions. We can take about maybe 2 to 3 questions. So anything at the top of your mind, please go on. And if there are some questions which are not, which we can't address here, please write to me and I will send them to Mr. Lulla, and I'm sure he'll be more than happy to have them answered for you.
Hello, good afternoon, Mr. Lulla. Thank you so much for bringing up this very prudent practices, a very important topic in the cost of poor quality in our transmission. My name is Satya Mahanti. I am from the TLD division, Transmission Domestic Division from Gandhinagar. My question to you is this cost of poor quality is based upon two things. This is the internal failure cost and external failure cost. So generally in the service industry, what is the percentage of this failure cost, internal and external? And how do you think that it can be controlled?
How do I see it can be? Could you complete that?
Controlled.
Controlled. See, what is the difference between manufacturing and a service process? Quality is essentially customer and a process, right? Customer being an output. In manufacturing, the customer receives the output and takes a judgment. LC did it. He judges whether the cabinet or beds, whatever, were to his expectation. If he's unhappy, he talks to people. He talks to many people. Bad news travels. If he's delighted, maybe a friend or two. Bad news travels. Now, in a batch mode, in a manufacturing, it's the output that is being judged. In a service industry, the customer is part of the process. And the customer has multiple moments of truth. One wrong thing and everything good you did is forgotten.
Yes.
They don't balance it out. So the difference in a service process is that you have to get very capable processes and empower people to be in a state of self-control, to be able to do the recovery of a customer that's angry. That's the difference. And so you have a customer-centric service culture throughout. You can look at a hotel, you can look at an airline, you can look at logistics. The customer is part of your process. Empower the employees by putting them in a state of self-control. Self-control has a prerequisite: process capability. Do not empower employees on an incapable process. And process capability, in turn, is defined by the needs of the customer. So it's a lot more complex. I'll go one step further and say, in a hospital where human life is at stake, service processes, quality of them, the robustness of the process, it has to be extreme. In an educational institution, let's say a school, a child joins school. Who's the customer there? The parent. As the child progresses from class to class, the role changes. The child becomes the customer. Now, engaging with a customer for 10 years in school is a bigger challenge. Service industry is relatively simpler to work. Relatively. But it's more complex than manufacturing. Have I answered your question?
Yeah, thank you so much. But I was just trying to understand, as per your experience in the service industry, this the failure cost, internal and external failure cost. What are the general percentage? Is it 50-50 or 20-80, or it is changes from service industry also in the construction service industry to hotel industry or hospital industry, something like that, or it is always the same?
No, nothing can be the same. But if you were to take a modal value, service industry would be 40% plus of total cost is COPQ.
Okay.
Whereas in a batch mode manufacturing, it comes down to about 15. A continuous process industry, a chemical plant, in a batch mode, it comes down to about 25. And in a continuous process, it is about 50. But all this is largely from the non-value creation processes. Let me just give another example. There was a surgeon in Bombay, very reputed for heart surgeries. And there was a family in the interiors with a 10-year-old child and a heart problem. They wanted the best surgeon to work on them. And so it was all set up. The child was taken to the operation theater, and the parents sat in the waiting room reading religious books, hoping for a miracle. Everything was going right. And suddenly, power went out. The standby generator did not trigger in the 1 minute. It came on in in 5 minutes. The child died. The doctor lost his reputation. How can you put a COPQ to this? Was it the doctor's fault? It was the maintenance practices, the support practices, not the core practice of the doctor. Are you getting me?
Yeah, understood. It's a very complex thing, I think. Yeah, some of the things which are external. Yeah, understood. Yeah. Thank you so much, Mr. Lulla.
Thank you so much, sir. We have time for one or two more questions. Rupesh wanted to ask a question, and Chirag wanted to ask about what is chronic waste. And I think, Rupesh, you can go ahead and ask your question.
Yeah, hello, sir. I'm working with KL's real estate division. My question was regarding this. Mostly, it has been seen like COPQ is management agenda, and sometimes it is being felt that people are down the line who are going actually to work on reducing this don't have see this concept as an eye to eye with the management. So, what is in there for the operational team who can see the benefit of COPQ? What is there for them?
Said I couldn't hear the full conversation. Can you just paraphrase what it was?
So what Rupesh was asking is that generally COPQ is seen as a management agenda. So what is in it for down the line employees, the operations team, or let's say the worker on the site? What is in it for them in order to buy into this concept? How do they benefit?
What you measure, that's what you get. If you can put COPQ targets into the job design and into the promotion policy, it will all happen. People aren't stupid. They know what they're being measured for. If you keep COPQ as something optional, it will always be seen as a management agenda. They want their profit and loss to do. What is in for me? If I meet my target, I become a candidate for promotion. And Jack Welch did it in the GE and completely transformed a sleepy organization into a quality organization. Put it into job design, promotion policy, and you'll have it. Everyone will know what COPQ is. They'll pick it up.
Thank you so much, sir.
All right, so I think we have exceeded our time. We really want to thank you for sharing your knowledge. As I mentioned to the audience, that if any of you have any more questions, please send it to us, write to me, and I will forward it to Mr. Lulla. I would like to invite Mr. Sachin Kanetkar, our director, and one of the, if not oldest, but one of the very, very old members of the Kalpataru family, to just propose a vote of thanks to you.
Thanks, Alsai, and a very good afternoon to you, sir, Mr. Suresh Lulla, and our entire Kalpataru family. So one thing which I definitely must mention over here is that each and every word of yours is going to remain etched in our memories. And I promise you that we will really put in our best to implement that in our day-to-day work. For several years, I have been talking regularly with my team members about this first time right concept and the cost of poor quality. But I can tell you what you spoke has really made the difference. in such a simple way, giving actual daily examples, day-to-day life examples, the meaning has really come out quite well. Once again, I would like to promise you that we will definitely try our best. For me, the biggest takeaways from this entire session, things like this quality is not about just having your standards, but it is about customers' expectation. Quality is not having your standards or maintaining your standards, but challenging your standards. Now, that is something which really, it is so simple, but we often get busy in only trying to maintain our standards, in only doing our audits, but we never try to challenge our standards. Then there was this thing which you mentioned about quality has to be in your culture, it has to be in your DNA. Now, that was something which really touched me, that yes, quality, how should it be dealt with? What should be done? Who should be looking at it? But yes, it should be in the culture of the organization, and it has to be in the DNA of every member of this organization. So thank you very much, sir. Very, very useful session from you. And we'll try to do our best to justice to what you have explained to us. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir, for the very nice vote of thanks. And thank you once again, sir, for spending your very, very valuable time. I was wanting to do a conversation with Mr. Lulla yesterday, and he was busy the entire morning addressing, the management team of I think Manipal University, I think for development of the teaching staff and all of that. So we had a chat, and we had a very nice chat. I think it was very good. So a person like that, with so many years of experience, even working continuously on Saturday and Sunday, is really, really very commendable. And you have spent your, almost your whole morning with us. We are really very thankful and grateful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.